Quote of the day: the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius. In regards to today, I'll be discussing why aren't you where you want to be. I think as people, we all have expectations from when we're children of where we want to be. We set goals from a young age of expecting a certain life or expecting to be where you want to be. And from a child, I wanted to be a footballer. I said I want to be successful, have cars, Lamborghinis. I even had a book where I was looking at cars that I would get when I'm older. And I set goals to myself that I said I would achieve it. However, I'm not there. I don't have a Lamborghini yet. However, we all set goals in terms of where we want to be or a certain person that we want to be from our childhood. However, sometimes we don't get there and maybe you're not there. But why is that so? So when looking at this, if I was to ask you a question right now, if you could go back in time and change everything, would you do so? And the large majority of everyone's going to say, yes, I would. And why is that so? The reason you would answer me or answer you would be that I will have the knowledge to potentially to invest in Bitcoin, do certain things in my life to put me in a great position to be successful. However, what I would counteract or what I would say with people is that it's always investing in certain things or doing certain things. However, it's never a look into their own life, their own decisions, and not changing themselves. So I think we could all go back in time and say, yeah, do this, invest in this, but it's not you. You just have a hack to become rich. However, would you retain that riches? Would you keep that success? I think no, because a lot of us, there's a lot of internal damage and there's a lot of things that are holding us back from now. And I think what you have to realize is that you have to be at peace with who you are now. And I think without question, in terms of if I go back, yes, I would want to. However, I've realized no, I am at peace of who I am and at peace to realize that it ain't gonna fix a lot of things. And right now, I think the most important thing for myself is, and I think the most important thing for everyone is to keep moving forward. And you can change things now. It's never too late to do certain things that you want to do. But what is the main reason and what's the things that are stopping you? So the two animes which I'll be talking about, and the two animes which made me think about this, is Vinland Saga and Berserk. And these are different depictions of life way before our time, and violence, all sort of things. However, because they are being depicted as events that happened past, we don't think this is the life that we live, and this is what goes on today. I think that's what stops us from realizing what is really going on. And I think what they do is that they show real struggles and real events and things like trauma and struggles that you go through and psychological struggles that prevent you from being who you want to be. And that's the truth. And I think what we have to realize, and I think what these animes do, for example Vinland Saga, I think the one thing that you have to realize is trauma. I think with looking at trauma, it is something that we hear a lot, but a lot of us may not have the maddest trauma. But when we realize there is some sort of trauma or something that is holding you back from your childhood. And with Vinland Saga, I think Vinland Saga does a good depiction of a child that wanted to be like his father, and then his father was taken away from him. And due to his father being taken away from him, Thorfinn is on a revenge path. But his father never wanted him to do that path. And with doing so, this trauma of what he's seen basically created this monster and this person that doesn't realize what he's doing is good. Vengeance was the only thing on his mind, and that's the only thing that made him move. And that was his motivation. But in terms of who he was as a child, he's a broken child. Obviously, we don't have the same type of trauma as Thorfinn. However, we have certain things or certain events that stop us and prevent us from being who we want to be. And certain things that our parents might have said, or certain events that withheld us from being, prevent us from being certain individuals that we want to be. Like for example, you might see your mom struggling a thing, and then you think quick money is the only thing that can solve your life. But that's not true. There's other avenues and things that you can do that can give long-lasting money for your mother and take care of your parents. However, due to you seeing certain trauma or seeing certain things, you think that's the only solution. However, there's many solutions. The thing is, we put ourselves in this one frame to think this is the way life is and that's it. And this is due to our trauma. Our parents would tell us you can't be this, that. And there's only two avenues, a doctor or graduate or something like that. However, it might not be your ambition or something that you want to do, but it stifles your dream and it prevents you from being who you want to be. And now looking at your life, you probably doing the thing that you didn't want to do, but your parents advised you, and that's the life you've been. You might be happy at the time being, but if I was to ask you if you want to do this certain thing or be this certain person, would you do it? You'd be like, yes, but what's stopping you? It's that psychological mental block that your parents have set in you to say you can't do certain things, and that trauma for yourself is the only thing that will, it's a mental block. When we see certain people do certain things or go to different avenues that are not traditional, we are automatically like, yeah, what are you doing with your life? That's not bring success. And then when we see them be successful, like, I should have done that. But it's that trauma or certain mental block that you've been given. And I think also when you look at an anime like Berserk is a journey of how bad life can be from a start-off point. And a lot of us are not put in the best position to succeed. However, you can still succeed. And I think a lot of us put ourselves in this one place where, because we had a shitty upbringing or had these certain things, that we can't gain success. Or we see certain people gain success and we're like, we can't do this. And I think two depictions of it can be, like, for example, Guts. I think with your life you have to experience it yourself. I think what's essential is have good people around you, like Guts, who are people that support you to who you want to be, and also even finding love with someone that truly trusts you. However, you can go on a different avenue, which can be Griffith, and you're willing to sacrifice it all, or you're willing to do certain things that you accept. These are two different paths which you can go to. And I think with Guts, what his character is that it's never too late and there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. I think a lot of us think there's no light at the end of the tunnel, depending on our upbringing or certain things that happen in our life. But with these characters or with Guts, it's that to say that life can be bad. Your life might be bad, but I promise you it's not as bad as Guts. And in regards to what I think with Griffith as well, Griffith is a person willing to sacrifice it all. You can be in a mental place where you have set this one goal and this you're going to do, and that's what you're going to do. However, you have to understand with a person like Guts, there are going to be repercussions of putting yourself in that one set avenue and one set goal. And I think with these two animes, what they do well is that they depict life and show life at the worst possible times. However, they show the light at the end of the tunnel. With Thorfinn, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. He realizes that the life that he was living was meaningless. It was nothing, and it was killing people, and he didn't understand the repercussions that he did. But later on, he understood and became the person he wanted to be to make his father proud. Or he finally understood what his father was when he didn't want to fight. And I think we all have to go through our own life experiences to dictate our own life. I don't think you should let friends, parents decide what your life will be. I think you can get advice from what your parents are. However, you should not allow that to be the mental block that prevents you from being the person you want to be. I think obviously there's going to be humps, there's going to be things that are going to go through into your life. However, it's about understanding that yes, if I'm setting myself a goal and want to do certain things in my life, that is just part of it. But I don't think you should allow the excuse of your parents stopping you or the mental block of them being introduced in your life, telling you can't do this, and then later regretting it. Because at the end of the day, you are your own person. You can decide what your life wants to be. And also, I would say that with Guts as well, your journey is your journey. No one can detect that, and no one can dictate that. I think it's understanding with them in terms of why aren't you the person you want to be. is realizing that at the end of the day, it is your life. You can control so many things. You can change the routines that you can do in your life. You can change the way your thoughts is. That's why the quote of the day bangs right now, is because you have to realize that you are the only person that can fix your life. And in terms of, you might have regret's fine, sympathy's fine, saying there's so many things that happen in life, and I understand that. However, you have to understand that if so, what are you going to do now? You can live in the past, but you gotta live in the present.